educators. We really want to be given the opportunity to educate the whole child.
We can get free college degrees based on all of the opportunities that are out here and available to our students.
Oftentimes, as parents, I think we want to protect our kids, but I think one of the greatest gifts we can give them is allow them to experience adversity.
Here's your host, Danita Bailey.
Well, welcome to School Days, Help for Moms and Dads of School-Age Kids. I'm Danita Bailey, and welcome to the show. School has likely started for most of the kids of our listeners by now, so we made it. We made it through the summer. This is the first year in a new school for many of our kids who are transitioning either to a new school or who are starting middle or high school, and that transition can be kind of tricky and full of emotion for both child and parent. So today our guests will share helpful advice and tips for making the transition go more smoothly. I can remember my own transition to middle school kind of being an abrupt one. We had moved and we changed school districts, and in the district that we came from, elementary school went up to 6th grade, but when we moved to the new district, that was 6th grade was starting middle school. So we weren't aware of this until right before we were about to enroll me into the neighborhood elementary school. And that was a big surprise for us. And I was really used to having the comfort of one teacher, and I wasn't really prepared for multiple teachers, a locker, class changing, and the whole nine. But eventually I did find my groove, but I remember that there was a lot of fear. So the goal of this episode is to equip parents with information, tools, and things to look for during that transition. So before we go any further, I do want to say that it does take a village. If you hear a great parenting tip or nugget of advice, share it with your parent friends. Facebook it, Instagram it, tweet it, link it in, and add the hashtag School Days Show or hashtag I am School Days. And also, we definitely want you to be a part of the show. So if you want to share your experience or ask some questions, give us a call at 214-431-5062. So let me introduce our guests today. First, we have Jodie Dunn. She has 13 years of experience as an elementary counselor and 6 years as a high school language arts teacher. This is her first year as a special education counselor serving kids in elementary and secondary. Jodie was a lead counselor for the Seguin, got that totally wrong, network, and the 2018-2019 Nell Fielding Impact Award winner for elementary counselors. She is also a mom of two, Lennon, who will be in the 3rd grade, and Cooper, who is starting 6th grade. Jodie has a BA in journalism and a master's of education and counseling, both from TCU. So welcome, Jodie.
Hi.
Hi. And also we have with us Telisa Brown. She's an educator with over 20 years of experience. She has a wealth of expertise and experience in pre-K through 12th in teaching, counseling, and central support. Telisa is currently the Director of Guidance and Counseling in Arlington Independent School District, supporting over 160 campus school counselors. Before joining Arlington Independent School District, Telisa served as a school counselor for 20 years and a classroom teacher and department chair for 3 years in the Dallas Independent School District. Telisa earned a Bachelor's of Science degree from the University of North Texas in Denton, Texas, and a Master's of School Counseling and Administration certification from Dallas Baptist University in Dallas, Texas. So thank you for joining us, both of you.
Hello, good morning.
Hi, good morning. So let's just jump right in. This is a topic that is close to my heart. I have a son who's is he in 7th grade? 6th. He just started 6th grade in intermediate school. So that was a kind of a big transition for us, especially since he's not the most organized dude. So having multiple teachers was definitely a transition for us. So first, I really just want to ask, there are schools that offer orientations or a day camp for kids that are starting middle school to kind of acclimate them. So what generally happens at these events, and why should I want my child to attend?
Well, I did have experience. My daughter also is she's just started 6th grade last week. We not only transitioned school districts, but she went from an elementary experience to now going to an intermediate experience.
Right.
So the intermediate school did host a day camp. where it was mostly for incoming 5th graders because the campus is 5th and 6th grade.
Okay.
But I felt like, and the counselor at the school encouraged her to attend. What was really cool about it was they did a scavenger hunt around the building.
Oh, that's
and
nice.
so coming from elementary to an intermediate school, the building is easily double the size,
Right.
maybe triple. It was huge. So I think, although I don't necessarily know if there was a lot of social opportunities, I think her nerves were eased just about the layout of the building.
Yes.
What the classrooms look like. Where's the cafeteria? Where's the gym? And so they were able to kind of move around in little groups and follow through a scavenger hunt.
Mm-hmm.
So for her, it was extremely beneficial. A lot of times you'll find information about these camps on school websites.
Mm-hmm.
And once I signed up, I actually got really informative emails about the entire day and what was going to happen. So I felt like as a parent, they did a great job communicating to me what was needed on my end to get her there and
Yeah.
make sure she had what she needed.
Yeah.
I can speak a little bit on high school transition. I have a sophomore, but she was a freshman last year. She transitioned to high school, and during that freshman academy that they had for the freshmen, the students had the opportunity to receive high school 101, where they basically learned about acronyms that are in high school, like AP. Pre-AP, what those acronyms mean. In addition to that, high school can be very scary. So when students are transitioning from middle school or junior high to high school, just a little scary because the campus is larger.
Right.
You have students from other networks, other areas of the schools of the city, and so it gave her the opportunity to meet students prior to school starting. Usually, those academies are before school starts, and so she had the opportunity to see faces that she normally would not have seen on the first day of school.
Right.
So she saw those faces prior to by attending those academies. So I totally encourage it.
Yeah.
I think it's very beneficial, and kids receive a lot from those camps.
Yeah. I know that one thing that was difficult for my 11-year-old DJ was the locker.
Yes,
And
lockers.
trying
the
to figure out the
combination.
combination and all that.
Yes.
We actually found his lock in his bag at the end of the school year. I was like, did you use this year? He had not even used it. So he did not get as much coaching as he needed. But I know that that's probably one of the things that they do during these day camps and things like that.
Well, and I know in Arlington, because our kids don't transition to lockers until 7th grade,
okay.
part of the role of the school counselor in 6th grade is that the district has provided lockers to practice in 6th grade. So we actually do guidance lessons.
Okay.
And my 6th grade teachers check out the lockers, and the kids could practice like in their free time. And I realized my daughter transitioning from Arlington to a different school district, she never got any sort of instruction. So she came home from school the first day and she's like, Mom, I have this locker. And I was like, thank goodness I have a lesson on how to teach you how to do the locker. So we practiced and she had it down. I didn't have any really tips or tricks, but we just practiced and she got confident. But the funny thing was I dropped her off that next day confident in doing her locker, and she goes, well, now I need to know how to do it when people are pushing and shoving and trying to get to their lockers.
And you're trying to do the passing period.
I was
Or just
thinking-
within that time frame.
Yeah, within that
Yes.
quick time frame. So next on the to-do list is going to be to do it timed. And
Yeah.
then I was like, do I need to have to like make a scenario in the house where people are trying to get to you while you're doing it? So that was funny.
So speaking of the passing period, what do you need to tell them? Because, they're used to being in the kind of cocoon of one teacher and you kind of transition. You do go to gym and things like that, but you're taken from them. So what do I need to tell them about having to change classes and things like that?
Well, I would say to stay focused in the
Yes.
hallways.
That's a good point.
Especially, I think in high school is where you really find very congested hallways because there's so many students
Right.
that attend the high schools. It's really great that in elementary, our 6th grade classes they're no longer self-contained. They're now departmentalized. So
Okay.
students are actually receiving a schedule. It's a very small schedule. It's not like high school, but they are receiving a schedule that they need to follow and actually change classes, change teachers, maneuver through the hallway to find their next class. It's not as complicated or as big as high school, but it is preparing students in elementary and definitely in middle school for that high school scheduling where it's no longer self-contained, where
Yeah.
they're not just focused on one teacher.
That's
but
good.
definitely to stay focused. staying organized is very, very important.
Yeah.
Having all your books for, we have in high school, you have an A day or a B day, maybe having all of your books for A day already organized prior to school starting, so that when you are going to your locker, you have your A day materials in your locker and you're just dealing or fooling with your A day materials. So that's what I would suggest or recommend.
Yeah, and I definitely just observing what the time frame is, because depending on whether it's middle school or high school, those transition times change as far as, I know in high school, I think they've got like a 7-minute passing period.
That's a long time.
It's a long time. However,
But it's a big building.
Those buildings are so
Yeah.
big,
Huge,
and maybe just sitting with your child and being like, okay, this is what 7 minutes really looks like. However, when you are trying to go from one end of the building to the other, you don't
Yeah.
really have time to stop and talk.
Right.
You need to be focused and know where you're going. So knowing maps, looking at signs. I know the high school that I work at, they've got a lot of really good signage around telling kids where to go. And then always ask an adult for help if you need help, if you don't know where you're going. Most of the schools have adults strategically placed throughout the hallways to help kids,
Yes.
especially these first few weeks, to make sure they get to where they're going.
Yeah.
Once again, another benefit of attending camps prior to school starting.
Yes,
'cause you
knowing
know
where
a
you're
couple of
going.
people.
You know people, and
Yeah.
they help you to navigate through the building to understand where's A building or B building or the South building or the North building. You get those lessons during those camps.
So I have to ask about this because I did read an article that I don't know that I agreed with, but I'm probably being a little judgy. So I know that as our kids get older, we're trying to teach them independence, teach them to self-advocate and things like that, right? So this article that I read, I wanted to know what your thoughts are. It said to get a copy of your child's class schedule and mark the location of her locker, his or her locker, in each classroom and bathroom on the school mat. Tape both inside the binder. If your child has trouble meeting maps, walk the route between classes, maybe more than once if necessary. Note landmarks that the student can use to navigate. Find out the length of the passing period between classes. Time it for your child. Demonstrate how far it is to walk in that amount of time. So to me, that seemed like a little bit of overkill, but is that what do you recommend with that? Because from my point of view, I really want my kids to be able to learn how to do some of this stuff by themselves. And I love the camp because it's not mommy showing you these things.
Yeah.
It's, your teachers or whatever administrators are showing you how to do stuff. So just kind of what are your thoughts about what I read there?
Definitely teaching your kids to learn how to use their resources is a very, very valuable skill. So just like I said, what I observed yesterday on the first day of high school was that there are resources everywhere for students. So I think, really it does depend on a student's need. There may be, if your child really needs an extra layer of support, showing them a map is not a bad idea. However, you want them to be able to navigate on their own in that school building because you are not going to be the one walking them to class. So they've got to figure it out on themselves. But encouraging them to reach out for resources. Like I said, look for the signage, ask adults. Those are really valuable skills for kids. And if we do it all for them, they're never going to know how to ask for help.
Yeah.
And that's important as we get older.
Very important.
You know that separation starts in pre-K.
Yes.
In pre-K, we're telling parents, bye. We got it. We don't want the parents to come in.
Yes.
We don't want them walking the kids in. We're taking them from the curb, and we will take the kids in. So we're starting that independence
Yes.
all the way in pre-K.
Yeah.
And we're preparing those pre-K students to become high school students who are advocating and managing their own school work, their own school environment.
So I can remember my first child when he went to, I think this was first grade. We had changed schools, and there was just a crowd of children. I mean, so many children, and they tell you to send them into the school. I'm thinking he's never going to get to the room that we showed him. And, but they would allow us for like the first week to go with them. And then they were like, okay, now we're going to say goodbye.
Right.
And now they're going to get to their classes on their own. But it's good. I mean, the part of the whole goal of parenting is to teach them how to be independent and begin to think critically and things like that. So
that goal starts in pre-K.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
that's
and I
hard to
think
hear.
the parent school relationship, like you've got to build that trust. And I think parents need to trust that the people they've put in charge of running these schools, things work very well and they are very well organized. And so we are going to take care of your babies once they get to school. But parents need to trust that it is going to happen. And we always joked at my old elementary school that, we were able, we could dismiss and, accept over 600 kids every day, and it worked very well. So it's, you just have to have processes in place.
Yeah. How is parental involvement? We hear a lot about how important parental involvement is. How does that change as they matriculate to higher grades once they get into middle school and then they're in high school? How does that change for me?
I think, that is a really good question. Parental involvement does look different at high school. And I think really as a parent, you have way more opportunities maybe in high school to be involved because there are so many more extracurricular activities that your kids can be involved with. Different sort of booster clubs, depending on what sports your kids may play. Whereas I feel like in elementary school, PTA is always your first place to get involved with the school. And then, that's kind of real organized parental involvement. But I think the opportunities are really the same as far as volunteer work. Schools are always happy to have parents come work and volunteer up at the school, help out. So I think, I think you may find more opportunities the higher kids go.
Right.
Can you think of?
Yeah, I agree with Jodie. Elementary, you see a lot of parental support.
Yes.
Parents are there. They're a part of PTA. They're the room mom. And then as you get into junior high and high school, it seems to decrease. And actually, I believe parent involvement is needed at all levels.
Yes.
Yeah.
It looks differently as Jodie stated, but at the secondary levels, it becomes more, I'm supporting you in a different way. I'm supporting you in ensuring that you are advocating for yourself. I'm supporting you to ensure that you have autonomy over your class assignments, your class work. So it's more of a support in a different fashion, but I think it's needed at all levels. As a school counselor, I was a school counselor on the high school level, and I love to see parents come up and support their students when they're part of programs.
Yes.
They're part of extracurricular activities, or they're they're a part of an athletic program, or they're in a sporting event. Parents should support their students. They need that support. But I do feel that kids should have a greater autonomy over their school in the secondary level, because we're preparing them for college. And, when you get to college, they literally cut parents off.
Yeah.
You're funding the school, you're, taking care of the bill, but any information about students when you get to college, they're not going to talk to the parent. They're going to speak directly to the student. So we want to prepare them for that. We want to prepare our kids to advocate and manage their own schoolwork.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. So and we have one of these in our family, if your child is not super organized, this is a different moving into middle school and then even moving into high school, that could become a challenge. So what are kind of some of the things that you recommend to help them?
It's a tricky one because, we just talked about pulling back a little bit as far as giving your kids autonomy when they get older. However, as a parent, because I do know that my daughter needs that support with organization, I just make it a point at night to just, when she's doing homework or we're just going over things in her binder, I have her double check, do things look organized? And then I don't do it for her, but I have her communicate to me. And I feel like as she gets older, I'm going to pull that back a little more. But being in 6th grade, she still needs that support and that structure.
Right.
What I've found, though, is that the teachers are actually pretty good at giving the kids some parameters on how to be organized.
Okay.
And so whether that's, reading in the school syllabus what their classes are supposed to be look like how many folders are they supposed to have? What are the labels supposed to be? So as a parent, you can kind of know those things in the back of your head. What is the organization actually supposed to look like? So it may just depend on the kid. I have a feeling my son, he's, although I can't really tell, he's going into 3rd grade. He may need some support, but as a parent, just knowing what's expected in those classes. And then I still think it's okay at home to kind of go over or look at their binder, pay attention, but make it really their responsibility. Like if you need help, ask me for help with your organization.
Yeah.
I agree.
Do you?
I think we as parents set the tone
Yes.
of organization for our students. We set the school tone, period
Right.
as parents. We set the homework tone in our house. So how we support our kids in our homes support how organized they are in school.
Right.
So if we're asking questions,
Yes.
we're being observant of things that they're doing in school. We're supporting whatever organizational tasks that the teacher has in place. If we're supporting those things at home, I think that we're setting the tone for our students to be, or our children to be organized.
Yeah.
I like that too. Parental, being a good role model
Yes.
to your kids about organization.
Unless that's your concern as well.
Yeah, it's a fine line to walk.
Might have to enlist a mentor
Yes.
who is organized.
Yes. Even with homework, if you have you have parents, oh my gosh, my child has so much homework, and you're saying those things, and your kids are hearing that, oh, my kid is not organized, and I'm not organized. Like, they need to see, as Jodie stated, a role model in us as parents. So when they see that, they will portray that also, hopefully.
Right.
That's the goal.
Yeah. You made me think of something. How can we as parents, sometimes we didn't have a good middle school or high school experience. How can that impact our kids? Our own personal biases and issues with middle school and high school.
It can.
It can. And I think there's definitely some, you can be honest with your kids, that it was rough for you or these were things. I think, but we all survived middle school, obviously, and we all went on to go to college and get advanced degrees. So I think using that as a tool with your kids, like middle school's rough for most people, regardless of your background or where your future's going. So it's okay to give a little honesty just about how middle school was for you. I know, just kind of sharing with my daughter, because I also transitioned schools. I moved states in 6th grade. And I went from a private school to public school.
Oh.
And it was a huge transition.
Yeah.
I'd only ever worn a uniform, and then I went to public school. So just little things like that. But sharing that experience with my daughter about how I felt, and that I had anxiety. I was a little insecure. I think it relieved her, like, oh, okay. But I pointed out to her, but Mom did okay. Like, I made friends, and I persevered, and that's my hopes for her as well. So I think it's okay to be a little honest that middle school is hard for most people, and really but focusing on however we all made it. Everyone survives middle school. It's,
And I
it's
think
challenging.
Right. And when you're sharing those experiences, share it in a positive way.
Definitely.
Because if you're sharing it in a negative way, it can influence your child highly. Your child will take your experience, which may not have been very positive for you, and maybe create that experience for them. And we don't want that to happen.
So how do you share, like, for instance, I was bullied at the end of middle school and then the beginning of high school. So how do you put a positive spin on that?
Well,
I think, just like I talked about a little bit with honesty, you share it with you persevered, you overcame. And so if you do share something like that, which I think it's okay to tell your kids, I was made fun of. I was very tall. I was very lanky when I was, in 6th and 7th grade. And I was easily 2 heads taller than every boy.
Wow.
It was, it was something I did get made fun of. But I think my daughter is going to have the same exact issues. So sharing that with her, but explaining just that there's another side to it, that we were, that I took those experiences and I used it to build my confidence.
Yes. Yeah.
And resources that are available.
Yes.
I was bullied, and if you're bullied, these are the resources. You don't have to be bullied. These are things that you can do. These are people you can talk to. So when I say positive, I mean providing them the experience, and then the resources are how you survived.
Yeah.
and maybe you didn't survive. We have some parents say, well, I didn't survive it. Well,
I got scars today.
Yes. Well, we have to think about things when we were growing up. We went through situations. So if we could do it differently, how will we do it different in a positive way? And we can share those different positive ways of doing things with our students, or with our kids.
And I think all adversity has a purpose and can shape you into the person that you are today.
Absolutely.
Sometimes in negative ways, but a lot of times it turns into a positive. So I think that's one of the things you can share about your experience if you're sharing your experience about high school and middle school, especially if they're going through it.
You can champion them to overcome. I mean, that's a skill you're going to have your whole life, is overcoming.
Right.
And that, but I liked what Telisa said about resources,
Yeah.
Especially when you do talk about bullying, because there are lots of resources at the schools, and who can the kid trust and talk to? Who can your child talk and trust at school?
Yeah, absolutely. In middle school and high school, should we encourage our children to have some overall goals, like by the time I finish middle school, I want to have accomplished this, or high school? Or is that too much?
No, I think goal setting is, we start talking about career and college now in kindergarten with kids, because it does just foster their love of learning and believing in the process of education. It's something they're going to commit a large portion of their life to, is education. So you really want them to buy in. And so I think goal setting is kind of how you get that buy-in with your children. What do you want to do? What do you want to see? How do you want to live your life? And it's almost inspiring sometimes even to talk to 5-year-olds about what they want to be when they grow up, because they get really, really excited. And we're able now to talk to them more about different types of careers and opportunities that they could have because they like to do a certain thing. That it's not just about being a doctor or a lawyer or a policeman anymore. Like, there are tons of opportunities in the school system for kids to learn how to do different things. So setting goals is a good idea.
Yeah,
absolutely. And starting early is a good idea, because we want kids to start focusing on that goal. We have endorsements now in high school where students have to select an endorsement their freshman year. And we're wanting students to start thinking about their career path. We have so many students who often get to their senior year and they don't know what they want to do.
Oh, absolutely.
So we want them to start having those thoughts and start looking into those career paths early.
So tell me what an academic resume is, and when do you start that? Is that something you even consider in middle school, or is that really just a high school thing? When do you start working on that?
I would say, middle school is when kids are exposed to extracurricular activities. Because my understanding would be your academic resume is pretty much everything you did in high school. And you want to be able to build a pretty solid resume depending on what you want to do afterwards.
Right.
Colleges really do look at extracurricular.
Yeah.
And, you can start playing instruments in orchestra as early as 5th grade. So it's never too early to talk to kids about what their interests are, looking at ways for them to get involved in extracurricular activities, because it may take them a few different tries to really find something that they like and that they really want to do and invest their time in. So the more time you have really to investigate, do they want to do theater? Do they want to play an instrument? Do they want to play sports? So starting to talk to them about those opportunities, and really depending on the school district, some of those things do happen as early as 5th grade. So
Right, I totally agree with Jodie. We should start building those resumes early. There are so many opportunities for students to be a part of programs outside of the school. Clubs. There are community colleges that are starting in 5th and 6th grade, allowing students to go to college and take college courses, STEM. So many opportunities for students, and they want to capture all of those opportunities in one document. So as Jodie stated, when they're applying to college, they can show all of the things that they were a part of during their school years, not just high school, but during the years when I was in junior high. even the years when I was in elementary, I was a part of these programs because colleges now, as Jodie stated, they're looking at the whole student.
Right.
Test scores are important, but they're looking at the whole student. So seeing that a student is involved in many different programs and activities is a plus.
So this was not something that was explained to me at all when I was in school. I mean, I was active. I was really more active in sports, but I was not super well rounded, but I didn't know anything about an academic resume. So what goes on that, and who's going to see it, and why is it important? Kind of how do you start building that?
I mean, your transcript is mostly built of your credits and your courses. And then academic resumes, I assume, because I'm just now back in high school, working with high school kids, is just more of like a traditional resume we would use to apply for a job. But I would say you would put on your academic resume anything you were involved in, because you do want it to look diverse, and you want it to look, that you were able to balance what you did outside of the class with how well you did inside of the classes. And, it doesn't mean to say that your kid has to be involved in a lot of different things, because as we know, Telisa has 4 children. Those calendars fill up super quick.
Oh, absolutely.
And there's only so many hours in the day. There's only so many days in the week.
And it can become very expensive.
It's expensive and it's overwhelming.
It's super time
for
consuming.
mom and dad. It's overwhelming for the kids to get them to where they needed to go. But, just that they did try and commit to different programs in the school. Do you know any more about academic resumes? I just think, it's probably exactly what you would send to the college. These are the courses I took. These are the extracurricular activities that we're involved in.
Things that you volunteered in, honors that you received.
Student council, chess club. Leadership.
And all of that's academic focus.
Yeah,
I know we said
absolutely.
academic resume, but being a part of programs on community colleges or being a part of STEM programs, all of those are academic focused. Even
Absolutely.
leadership
Oh, very much so.
can be academic focused. So just listing all of the activities, all of the programs, all of your courses that you've done during your school years is part of your academic resume.
Yeah, and so they're going to look at that, and I love what you said, that they don't have to do everything, because really colleges are not. Maybe in the earlier years they're looking to see, okay, what did they try? But really in high school they're going to want to know that you finally committed to some things, and you have some passions, and that I served on the student council, or I volunteered with Habitat for Humanity all 4 years or something like that. They don't want you to kind of be all over the map.
Over the place. They want to see
by
that
the time you're in high school.
Right. See that you committed to something and you follow through with it.
Yeah.
To the end.
Yeah.
You stay consistent.
Absolutely.
And that's important.
Yeah. You work with special needs students, so I would love to know how your IEP and your 504, that's not it.
Yeah.
IEP, yes.
IEP,
and 504 are affected by transitioning to middle school and then transitioning to high school. What do I need to know as a parent?
As a parent, if you do have a student that has an IEP or a 504, our schools these days do have the ability to share documents electronically. I would have to say that is never as timely as the school would like it. As a parent with a child with a 504 IEP, it's always good practice to have those documents yourself. My daughter recently transitioned from special education to a 504, where we've taken most of her in-class support, actually all of her in-class support out. She just is served through accommodations. And I was very nervous as a mom making that transition to a brand new school where no one knew her. So I took it upon myself to send an email to her teachers, and I attached her 504 documents.
That's awesome.
And I gave a little background information. And what I thought was so refreshing was that the teachers emailed me back, and they all felt like what I told them about her history was so much more than what the 504 was saying about her. Because the 504 is just a current, it was, just 1 year snapshot of what her abilities are. But what I was able to provide as a parent was and it was really just a brief paragraph of where we were and where we are now with her academically. But the teachers were all so appreciative to have that bigger picture of who my child was based on my perspective, than what was just going to be shown in that 504.
Yeah.
So as a parent, I definitely think keeping those documents is a good idea, and being a point of contact with those teachers and just say, you know, I'm here as a parent if you have any questions. And then that just opens up that door for communication. I've been extremely pleased with how she's been received at her new school. And I couldn't ask for better communication from her teachers. But I think a lot of that was I reached out and said, hey, I'm here. If you need me as a parent, just let me know. So.
And here's what you need to know, because I think a lot of times we think, well, they'll transfer the information.
And they do. And that's
Right.
the thing is that
But maybe not
and
quickly.
actually that the record keeping, but I just know today I was in a meeting, and at a high school we have dozens of kids that are brand new. And you know, I'm not able to see them yet in my computer system, but they need services. It's the second day of school. They need
Absolutely.
services. And so what has been really beneficial is when the parents have been able to give us that information, because we are like running as soon as we get it to give those kids exactly what they need. So, you know, have faith in the system. We will get all of those records. We will have it all. However, if you can just give us, you know, more information that maybe we're not seeing that's on paperwork, because we
Yeah.
all know kids are way more than test scores
Yeah.
and what's on a piece of paper. So, you know, sharing information that would be beneficial is a good idea.
I want to make a quick note. I know we're speaking on transitioning from elementary to junior high and junior high to high school, but I want parents to know that those IEP records and also 504 are accepted in college as well.
That is good to
Students
know.
can utilize their IEP and their 504 accommodations in college as well.
Yes.
So I want parents to know that. So Jodie made a great point. Keep track of those records because it's not as easy to transition electronically those documents from high school, from a ISD to a college. So it's
That's
good
true.
when parents have those documents in place. They can just give to the student where the student can give to the college.
Yeah.
So just a little point I wanted to make there.
That's a very good point. And also, it's a little late for everybody right now because we've already had the Meet the Teachers night. But on Meet the Teacher night, because both of our boys have either an IEP or a 504, and I pulled the teachers aside and I was like, okay, here's what their challenges are, and we do have an IEP in plan or in place or a 504, and these are some of the things that we've dealt with. And you know, here's my email if you need to contact me
No,
or
that's
text me or
great.
whatever, and just let them know up front. You know, because on the first day, they probably aren't going to have all of that information. And if they're seeing some things, I want them to understand, okay, this is why this child is, you know, under the table. Hopefully that didn't happen.
Yeah.
But I think that's a great point because I know you said that it may be too late if we've had teacher meet the night, but I have a child that has a hearing deficit. So my child has a 504 because of his hearing deficit. I didn't mention it during parent meet the teacher night. So I sent the teacher an email over the weekend. I knew the first day was coming up just to make the teacher aware of Carson's hearing deficit, and the teacher replied back and she was appreciative that I made her aware. So even if you have not told your teachers about your child's 504 plan, it's not too late. You can send an email or always visit with the teacher before or after school.
Yeah, or use those class dojos and those remind apps and
Yes.
things like that. I love those. Those are fantastic.
But making them aware soon is great.
Sooner than later, right? Let's just take a quick break to say that if you have any, I'm going to get it. I am. If you have any questions or comments for our guests, give us a call at 214-431-5062. Let's talk academics and specifically AP courses and pre-AP courses. So it's my understanding in middle school it's pre-AP and in high school it's AP courses. Is that
Correct.
correct? Okay. So is this something that I should encourage if I think that my child is capable of the rigor?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. You want your children to be challenged. You want them to be in a rigorous classroom environment so that their needs are being met. So if your child can handle those pre-AP courses in junior high school, I strongly encourage you as a parent to ensure that they're enrolled in those courses. High school, we take pre-AP that freshman year. There are a few AP courses freshmen can take, but I do encourage students in high school to continue on taking those advanced placements courses, because we want to start not only being challenged and ensuring that we are receiving rigorous curriculum, but we want to also start thinking about college credit, because with AP courses, if a student takes the course, at the end of the course, there is a test that students can take. And if they make a certain score, an eligible score, they qualify possibly for college credit.
Right.
Yeah.
And are these pre-AP classes preparing them for the AP classes? Is that how that works?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that. Those pre-AP courses definitely are preparing our students to take those advanced placement classes.
How do you know if your child is, because David has mentioned to me he teaches AP classes. Some kids shouldn't be in pre-AP classes or AP classes. So how do you know if your child is capable?
It could start with just communication with their teachers. I knew moving my daughter districts, we did not offer pre-AP courses in 6th grade. At her old district, the new district, they do offer pre-AP courses in 6th grade. Now, this is my child who is moving from special ed to 504. I was extremely nervous, and I wasn't sure if that was something that she could do. I asked her teachers from last year, when we were able to enroll in her courses for this year, if that was something that they felt that she could handle. And I got a resounding yes. Like, they all felt like that was something she could handle. So I was very nervous to have her in those classes. But like I said, those teachers have been nothing but accommodating to her, and assuring me that she was going to be able to do whatever it was that they were asked to do in that class, regardless of her ability or disability.
That's great. Yeah. Should I be concerned about my child's college readiness if they aren't in AP classes?
No, I think there are so many different tracks now to get to college. And not only that, but there's different ways to get college credits other than pre-AP courses. So you don't, and Telisa may know a little bit more, dual credit classes.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Right. And AP courses, granted, dual credit classes, yes, they do prepare students for college because the rigor is there. They're able to be exposed to those college level exams. But if your student is not taking AP courses in all of the different content areas, doesn't mean that your child is not going to be college ready. Just ensuring that your student has experiences equates to college readiness along with the AP courses. So I don't want parents to think, oh, my child is not taking any AP courses, or they only had one or two, so they're not ready for college. It doesn't necessarily mean that. It's just that we have to offer opportunities and experience for students outside of those AP classes.
Experiences for children outside the AP classes?
Yes, and I mean, we talked about earlier programs. Prepare students. We talked about clubs.
Oh, okay.
And I'm speaking academic. Those experiences, being a part of those hands-on opportunities, can also increase their college readiness.
Gotcha. I know that some people that are in schools that maybe are not high performing may feel like there's pressure to be in an AP class. Is there any truth to that maybe they will be more prepared if they're in the AP class? Or do they just need these kind of different clubs and experiences and things like that?
AP courses are set to prepare students for college because they're college readiness courses. So I think a combination of both is beneficial for students, a combination of both.
Can you give me a couple of examples of some of those experiences, like the clubs that you were talking about?
Right. For example, I talked earlier about college, community colleges. They offer college for kids, not only in the 5th and 6th grade, but they also offer college for kids in the 8th grade, in the 8th and the 9th grade, those higher grades. So the college for kids is a great way to start getting your mindset on preparing for college and getting that college readiness instilled in students. So that's the program, the type of programs that I'm speaking of.
Okay.
But AP courses, pre-AP courses, by all means, are courses that are designed to prepare students for college because of the rigor and the content that the students are exposed.
Gotcha. I don't remember utilizing my school counselor a whole lot in middle school and high school. So can you kind of tell me what the role of a counselor is academically, socially, all of those things?
I can definitely speak to elementary. Telisa may have to fill in that middle school gap because I've not technically worked in middle school. I feel like in high school, the counselors, because of looking at transcripts a lot, I think there's a little misunderstanding about high school counseling that they really just work on schedules. However, when you're looking at a child's schedule, that is the absolute perfect opportunity to really reach and dig in and figure out what's going on with that student. How are they adjusting? How are they handling their classes? And, you know, I feel like they're extremely visible on the high school campus, the counselors. There's signage everywhere. Who is your counselor? And it's listed by alpha. So, you know, if you know what your last name is, you know who your counselor is.
Sure.
But I just think because they are doing a lot of planning for classes, you do get that face-to-face time with your high school counselor where it's an opportunity for the counselors to reach out to kids and really just see how they're doing. And, you know, do they need help with anything? My role as a special ed counselor is a little different. I have kind of a unique niche of students that I work with. And in elementary, the counselors are extremely visible because we're constantly doing classroom guidance. And the schools are a little smaller, so all kids know who your counselors are, and we really only have one counselor per elementary if you have two. So I think visibility is definitely there. So if your kids know who your counselors are and know where to find them, you know, we can always encourage our kids to utilize their counselors during the day. They're there for academic and emotional support.
Right. I agree with Jodie 100%. Our elementary counselors, we do a lot. All of our counselors develop
Yes.
comprehensive guidance programs. And those programs are evolved around the 4 components, which is guidance curriculum, individual planning, system support, and oh my gosh, Jodie, responsive services. I went blank for a second. Responsive services. So within those 4 components, as a school counselor at every level, we work, and our work is infused through those 4 components. It looks differently at every level, but our work is surrounded around those 4 components.
Gotcha. So by teen years, 1 in 5 students will experience mental illness. So how can transitions to new schools kind of reveal that there are some issues or exacerbate mental issues?
Yeah, anxiety is a big one.
Yeah,
and I think
it
that's
is.
what, as a counselor, we see the most with kids is just that anxiety piece. You know, all transitions will bring forth some sort of anxiety. I think you know, as a school, how we support kids is just, you know, assuring them that they have support to begin with, that the school is here to support you. You know, your parents are here to support you. So just know your school counselors are very well equipped to handle kids with anxiety at the school building. I think as a parent, something that, you know, may be looking for signs that your child may be experiencing, you know, issues in their mental health. The 2 signs I always tell parents are the biggies is change in sleeping patterns and then change in eating patterns. So what that may look like is if you have a child that has a pretty healthy appetite and then they're all of a sudden not eating, that's kind of a red flag that you may want to dig deeper and see kind of what's going on.
Okay.
But it could be the opposite. You could have a child that doesn't really eat a whole lot, but then they're eating all the time. That's equally as, you just need to make sure, you know, that you know what's going on. And sleep's the same thing. If you've got a child that typically is a really good sleeper and they're having a hard time sleeping, that could just mean that there's something else going on that you want to investigate. But as a parent, just being really aware of changes in your child, because the sooner you can check on them, see what's going on, offer up resources, the better chance they have at being able to overcome whatever it is that they're going through.
Yes.
And as you asked earlier, your school counselor, you really didn't have a relationship with your school counselor. That's where the school counselor really comes in play, having that relationship as the parent with the campus school counselor, and also encouraging your child to have a relationship with the school counselor. Very important.
We take phone calls from parents all the time where it's the parent is the one that's kind of suspecting something's going on. I always fielded calls from parents saying, will you just check on my child today, because I'm not really sure what's going on. They've had a different attitude, or we've been seeing some behaviors at home. So, it's always okay to communicate to your school counselor that you're concerned about your child, because we definitely could investigate and look into it and touch base with your child, just so they know that everyone here is working to help them be successful.
Yeah. And we have realized that in the last couple of years how awesome school counselors can be, because we have one child that has anxiety and depression, and I have called the counselor and said, please just check, because he didn't have a good morning or a good night or whatever, and she'll check and say, okay, he was doing a great job and he's fine today. And
I know as a counselor we appreciate parents telling us, because a lot of times our numbers are high. And I'd love to check on every kid every day. But if I can prioritize who I need to see, like I already have a list ready for me when we get back to campus today. It really, I think those kids appreciate knowing someone kind of cares about me, and
it gives the parents security.
Yes, it makes parents feel better.
My child is being taken care of. He had a bad morning, but I know that the counselor is there.
I loved making those phone calls back to the parent to be like, look, I just peeked in and they're doing their work and they seem to be paying attention. So, definitely as a parent, you can always reach out to the school and make that connection.
Yeah. And I was talking to someone who, her first year in college, she had a roommate who had some serious mental illness, that she was dealing with some depression and suicidal tendencies and things like that. And she was kind of questioning. She was like, how did they send? So she had help wherever she came from, another state. And then they didn't have stuff in place for when she went to college. And she was, that caused upheaval for both of them, including both families, really. But we were talking earlier, Jodie, before we started the show, about that mama intuition and daddies have intuition as well. And just knowing, okay, there's some issues, and really acting upon those things. Because I know that as we as parents get busy, there's so many things that we have to do, but really using that intuition and going, I think that this may be a problem, and starting to address those things early before they fly the coop and go to college or technical school or, whatever it is they're going to be doing after high school.
There's so many resources, and parents just have to take advantage of those resources. And if they're not aware of those resources, again, the school counselor can help them with that. Ask your school counselor.
Absolutely. I have a bunch more questions, but we do not have any more time.
Oh,
wow.
That was quick.
You did
told
say it would
you.
go by fast.
You didn't believe me, but I told you it would go by really fast. So unfortunately, we are out of time, but thank you guys so much for sharing such valuable information. This is a really good episode.
Thank you for having us.
I appreciate you inviting us to share our knowledge about counseling, for sure.
Yeah. So save the date. We always want to tell you guys a little bit about what's going on with Noggin Educational Foundation. So save the date for 9/19/19. North Texas Giving Day is an 18-hour online giving event designed to empower every person to give back to their community by supporting North Texas nonprofits and causes they care about. So each year, Noggin receives support from cities all over the United States. And because of our School Days show, we have listeners really all over the globe. So we're hoping that we'll receive support from many different places. And what we do is we use the money collected from North Texas Giving Day to fund our free tutoring program. So this year, we were able to give free tutoring to 13 students because of North Texas Giving Day. And we already have, I have 6 here, but we have more than 6 on a waiting list, and we want to make room for a lot more. So we are asking that 334 people give $30. And if you're able to give more than 30, you can be one of those people that helps us meet our goal even faster. So what we'll do is we'll keep you posted about our progress. And you can start scheduling your giving starting September 9th. And North Texas Giving Day is actually September 19th. And that's my birthday, y'all. So I'll mention this more as we get closer and give you more details. And there will also be details on our website. So just putting a bug in your ear. Next week, my guest will be Dr. Jantel Jordan, who will be co-hosting with us, and she is an associate psychologist and postdoctorate fellow at Great Life Counseling Center. We will sit down with middle and high school counselors Stephanie Threets and Danielle Fitch to discuss how students are dealing with their stress issues and provide parents with warning signs as well as tips to help their kids thrive under pressure. So make sure you share that information with your parent friends about next week. As always, head to our website, schooldayshow.com, for more information. And remember, you don't ever have to miss a show. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, and pretty much anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Noggin Foundation. That's Noggin. And YouTube, you can find episodes of School Days and other videos featuring the fun educational programs we offer with Noggin on our YouTube channel. So search for Noggin Educational Foundation on YouTube. And last but not least, we always want to end the show by saying that David and I are parenting by grace. We depend on God to give us the wisdom and strength we need to raise our kids into flourishing adults. And if you would like to know more about that, feel free to email me at info@schooldaysshow.com. Have a great week.
School Days is sponsored by Noggin Educational Foundation. At Noggin, we provide free educational resources to students from low-income families and support to their parents like the preceding broadcast. School Days is made possible by the generosity of listeners just like you. Please consider donating to Noggin at Noggin, Noggin, Foundation.org.